And something fairly early on was the Smiths. I mean, before they were supposed to go to the States, Andy Rourke, who we sadly lost very recently as well.
Yeah, very sad that, very
Yeah,
sad.
indeed. He was arrested for drugs, and they didn't think he was going to be able to get there with all the rules and everything about getting into America and stuff like that. And you were hired, weren't you? You were called up to almost take his place for this tour, but it never actually went ahead. You never actually went over there, did
No,
you?
no, it went ahead and kind of in the fullness of time, I've got a feeling. I don't think I ever really. I mean, I was an absolute last resort failsafe, but I don't think it was ever really on the cards. I think this was more about keeping Johnny happy because Johnny Marr and I were in the middle of this kind of mad bromance, having the time of our lives together, running around towns, playing on loads of records. It was just the best. And there was a thing of, and I think that's what it was. I don't think Morrissey ever entertained the idea of me doing it or anyone else ever doing it. And you know, and I'm really glad I didn't because I would have just stuck out like a sore thumb. I don't think you know, that was Andy's gig, and Andy, I mean, it was just a wonderful week. I
Yeah.
drive past the place every time because I live down in Sussex now,
Okay.
and it was a place called Stanbridge Farm, which is near Gatwick.
Yeah.
And it was this beautiful old, I mean, it might be Elizabethan or something, beautiful old Tudor farmhouse. And it just had this barn attached to it, which was a rehearsal room. And it was a big thing, you know, people go and rehearse there for weeks. And then, unfortunately, I think it might have closed because the road got widened a few years back, which is a shame. So, which meant that that farm was right next to the road. So I don't know what it's become now, but I drive past it once, you know, a couple of times a week. So it's always there, fondly in my memory, because they were just lovely. There was, you know, and it was interesting because this at the time because they were huge at the time.
Yeah.
Huge, you know. I mean, what was funny was that, of course, they still had that air where you thought of them in terms of an indie band,
Mm.
you know,
Yeah.
but they were enormous pop stars. I mean, and of course there were red tops, there were paparazzi hiding in the grounds and stuff, trying to because they had this drug bust called and like Boy George had just been busted for there'd been a big thing with him, and so he was sending messages of support. You know, it's like, oh my god, we're in that world, you
Yes.
know. and then and so we and yeah, I said, and it was Andy showing me his parts. And Smith's songs and Andy's parts are really a lot more complicated than you think. The way Johnny writes is fantastic. Like, right, there's this intro which never happens again, and then there's like this thing that's like the chorus, but it's not. It's more of like a second intro, and then you got the verse, right? But it only happens on the first verse this time, and then there's like the bridge. But again, but this is the bridge. It's the same as the third bridge, but they're not the second bridge. And then you get to the chorus. But obviously, this chorus is slightly different to the other choruses. Then there's a second verse, which isn't quite the first verse. And they're, I mean, amazingly crafted pieces. And, you know, and Andy's lines were pretty, he had a lovely melodic thing. So, yeah, and we had a week doing that. And of course, yes, I'm a, you know, I'm a sober man now. So this is quite shameful. But on the last night, we just got completely off our nuts. And we had a game of football. I think we were all on acid and all sorts. And when Johnny, when I was writing my book, I sent this story to Johnny just to say, mate, are you okay with me putting this in? And he went, yeah, Guy, it's fine. There's just one thing you got wrong. We did have the football match, and I think you were both referee and manager.
Fantastic.
The story is, it was about 9 o'clock in the morning, and I went to bed, and I was lying there, and I thought, I haven't finished. So I went and started banging on what I thought was Johnny's door. Johnny, you can't wake up. Oh, sorry, that was probably much. Johnny, wake up, bastard! Sorry, God, and then of course it was Morrissey's room.
Oh no,
Morrissey would have gone to bed straight after Dan's Army. So he just got up, went and got the train, went back to London, and that was it. And then I went back to London, and then I just didn't hear anything.
Game over.
Yeah.
You mentioned your bromance there with Johnny Marr. I mean, obviously he's such an influential guitarist, his style very unique and all that sort of stuff. I mean, what was he like to play with on various things, and what was he like as a person to be around at that time? Because it was really exciting time.
A really exciting time. I mean, because and it was only because with Brian Ferry, Brian had this great idea of there's Money Changes Everything, which is the B-side to Big Mouth Strikes Again. and is an instrumental. And Brian or someone else had the idea of Brian writing a song over that and putting it out, which was genius, because then that's Brian's way of tapping into, as I said, those lonely tear-stained bedsits. And and we did it, and for some reason, and we were just having trouble getting the track. And it was Brian who said, "Why don't we get the guy who played? Why don't we get Johnny Marr in?" And I was all like, I mean, I didn't really rate them, I didn't, because it's that thing with this. It's the same. This has happened to loads of people I've introduced them over the years, where on the surface, a lot of people just hear Morrissey. They hear Morrissey and you like it, you don't like it, whatever. And it's and an awful lot of people are like, well, I love what he's saying. I can't really, not really love it. And you don't really, and you have to get past that, get past whatever your opinion is of that, even if it's good, before you really kind of pay attention, And so Johnny turned up at the studio to play this song, and it was like, and I was probably being all, yeah, whatevs. And we're all very, very young. I mean, I'm only 23 at this point, 20, and so it's like, arseholes, basically. And I know this thing I'll never forget of, he just plugged his guitar in. Okay. And and I was probably reading a paper. And the second he started, I remember I was on my feet. So was Chester, just ran over there to go, where's the other guy? Where is the other guy? Do you know what I mean? Because it was just two people playing a guitar. And it was just, amazing. Because I was saying because Johnny is very much, he's like the other side of the same coin of David Gilmour, in that they both have that same thing of they're an orchestra.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, that is still one of my proudest ever achievements. Is there's a song on the album Kite by Kirsty MacColl, which, thanks to me, the guitar credit is David Gilmour and Johnny Marr.
Wow. There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, and again, he introduced me to Kirsty MacColl. So I played. In fact, first thing I played for her was brilliant. Was You Just Haven't Earned It Yet, Babies. I was playing a Smith song with Johnny for Kirsty, which was fantastic. And then my relationship with Kirsty was brilliant. Went on for, and then Days, we did Days, her big hit, Kink song,
Electric Landlady and everything. Yep.
Electric Landlady, all that, and but do you know, it's such a great title, that.
Yeah, it is brilliant.
Her alternative title choice was Al Green Was My Valet.
She had such brilliant titles, didn't she, with the Elvis and the Chip Shop and everything else? And
the wit on that woman. Yeah,
absolutely.
So we did, and it's, we're still, I mean, what's nice is that, my son is now at Manchester Uni, and as often, he's always the first person I call when I go up, and as often as not, I'll go and see him, or come see him. He came out to have dinner in a Chinese with me and my boy last time I was up. It's adorable. Wow. He's just the nicest man in the world. And he's got that thing. There's only two people I know who are quite like this. I know lots of people still love it, but and I'm not this isn't meant to be a diss of any other guitar player, but it just seems particular to both Johnny Marr and Phil Manzanera. Both seem to have this thing that every day, every time they pick up a guitar, it's Christmas morning. They're 10 years old, and they've just been given their first guitar. It's that exciting to them. It's so, and I envy that so much.